Good morning, good afternoon, and evening, baseball fans. Welcome back to the Barstool Baseball Show. It is Wednesday. This is Carl, and I am joined, as always, by Chris Clemmer. Good to see you.
Yes, this is going to be a fun one, I think. This is something we've been kind of like working toward all year, right? Like, we're talking playoffs. We're talking playoff projections. We're talking seedings. We're not talking playoff predictions because that's something we'll talk about a month from now. But this is when things kind of line up, who's going to play who, where we kind of see things shaking out we got less than 4 weeks left, Carl.
Yep. And this is we said this before with Rockstar Wars, this is a great exercise to get our minds right for the playoffs. We're not doing projections. Forecasting is like World Series and NLCS matchups. We're going to do a confidence interval 1 through 12. There's 12 playoff teams. It's not just who we think is going to make the playoffs for the show. It's the confidence in which we can seed these teams, in which I think, for example, the Phillies, I'm very confident that they'll be the first wild card team and the 4th overall seed in the National League. I'm much more confident in that than I am in talking about the AL West, for instance. So
correct.
We'll get into this.
A wise man once said, "Get your mind right."
I don't know.
What we're gonna do.
I don't know who that is.
No, it's Mincy. That's my Mincy impression.
Oh, that was your Ben Minson.
So some say it was spot on. I mean, I like to think it is. Widespread panic.
That I know. That guy Ben Mintz will sit in a hotel room and stream a Widespread Panic concert. He loves them more than you love the Mets. That's a fact.
Yeah, that's probably true. Probably true. I'm mad at the Mets right now, anyway. But I mean, they won. When people hear this, they won yesterday, so that's good.
Yeah, and an interesting observation in researching this show and putting playoff odds. They still have a non-zero chance. It's 0.3% chance of making the playoffs.
Okay. I'm seeing right now. What are they? They are now 7 out of the wild card. So, yeah, just all we have to do really is win our last 24, and we'll probably be in. So,
which is a great transition to my opening comment. Is we have 18 teams available. If you're watching this on YouTube, we've got a good graphic presentation to take you through this exercise. We have 18 teams available. The 19th team out was the San Diego Padres. But one caveat, if they win their next 8 games in a row, I think they're a lock to compete for the 6th wildcard spot.
They're 6.5 back. So, yeah, they can go on one of those 15-game winning streaks. They're all set.
They have a cupcake schedule towards the end of the season. That's in jest, though, Padres fan. I was right to start the season. This is going to be, I think, easy to get going through the first 2-3 teams.
Yep.
And then hopefully there's some good nuance in this. Again, confidence interval and this seeding, not just who we think is going to make the playoffs, but the confidence in which we think these seeds and what the playoff bracket's going to look like. So,
correct.
Why don't we just kick things off? And I'm pretty sure you and I are very confident that the Atlanta Braves are going to be the number 1 seed in the National League. They're going to win the NL East. And that's the most confident thing I can say about the playoff bracket right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'll completely agree. Even go a step further. I'm very confident they'll have the best record in baseball, too. They have 4-game lead over the Orioles. Not that we're even seeding for that, but just that's how confident me and you both are that the Braves are the best team in baseball. The best team in baseball doesn't always have the best record. It doesn't always work out that way. But in this case, this season, it does. The Braves are by far the best team in baseball, and they will absolutely, I completely agree, Carl, they are very confident that they will have that number 1 seed.
There was some speculation that maybe the Dodgers would be competing for the, and I think this past weekend, the Braves completely put that to bed.
Oh, so Dodgers didn't help themselves. Julio Urias getting in domestic violence charges, which are troubling on a lot of levels. And he's not even tried with the team right now. Chances that he is with the team in the postseason, I would say, are 0, honestly. I can't see any way he comes back. And then Kershaw, just start people hearing this, yesterday, did not have a very good fastball, kind of got knocked around a little bit, didn't look good, which is even more trouble. Even had control issues, walked 5, I believe. So now who's your ace? Bobby Miller, Lance Lynn? Like, what are we doing here? So, yeah, Carl, the Dodgers had a weekend from hell.
Even so, I think the Dodgers, I have them second. I'm second most confident that the Dodgers win the NL West and are the 2 seed in the National League. I'm more confident in that than the Orioles winning the American League East.
Of course. I mean, that's a no-brainer. The Dodgers have, a 14-game lead? The Braves have a 14.5-game lead. The Orioles have a 3.5 game lead. The Rays are right there with them. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how we want to do this. Want to go back and forth or what? But if you're not going to if I'm taking the Dodgers second, or I'm taking the Braves first, or vice versa, I think we are both in lockstep here that we both go Braves, Dodgers, or in that order of confidence.
Yeah, I think we kind of run into it till we see conflict, and I trust your judgment and your reason. I did as much homework as I could putting my confidence intervals together, so I'm interested to see where we do butt heads. I think we're going to agree in a couple different philosophies. So right off the top, it's Braves 1, Dodgers 2. And again, this is not disrespectful. Orioles fans are very sensitive online, and that's okay. You guys have waited a long time to get back to this part. You guys have done it with your homegrown guys. There's a very sentimental attachment for the Orioles fan base. We're not disrespecting what the Orioles have done in saying this, though. I'm just more confident that the Braves will be the 1 seed and the Dodgers will be the 2 seed. Like I know that with as much certainty as I know anything about the playoff bracket right now.
Yeah, it just has to do with division strength. There's nothing to do with the Orioles being a good or a bad or very good team. It has to just do with the fact that Dodgers and Braves just have 14-game leads in the division. It's that simple.
Now, this is where I think things get pretty interesting because...
Are you going to take this third one here?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just would like to talk about it. Like,
okay.
I'm interested in what you think for 3 because I think the next most certain thing for the MLB playoffs right now is that the Twins win the AL Central and they have the 3rd best record in the American League. There are multiple games behind who's in the West, obviously in the AL East.
Well, we say 3rd best record among the division leaders, not 3rd best record in the American League.
Correct.
Okay.
Like, because I want to emphasize the way the bracket's set up because the top 2 teams get a bye, and then it's 3 through 6 play each other in a 3-game series. When I say they'll have the 3rd best record, the division team, the worst division champion, has to compete in the wild card round. And I'm very, I don't want to say certain, but the probability is very high for me that the Twins are the AL Central number 3 seed competing in that wild card round. I don't see a way out of that. I think the Guardians had that cute little run like a second ago. They're the last team that we included in this. You know, if there's an argument that the Twins could fall apart, but from where I'm sitting, it seems like the Twins are going to be the 3 seed in the American League.
Yeah, I was going with my heart a little bit, and I had a different answer a couple of days ago. Look, the Twins have a lead, so they were always obviously forefront there, but because I really love Terry Francona. I think he's an amazing manager. I really want him to go out with a chance to bring the team to the playoffs. I love the city of Cleveland. Nothing against Minnesota. I've never been to Minnesota. And I also love that they have like an all rookie pitching staff. So I was just looking for any angle I could that the Guardians would be in the playoffs. So I was looking, I'm like, all right, just added Matt Moore, just added Lucas Giolito, added Ronaldo Lopez. All right, cool. They're playing pretty good baseball. They're going into this series against the Twins. If they sweep this series, or even win 2 out of 3, I can start to imagine that world. Well, fuck no. Lucas Giolito got his shit rocked yesterday, annihilated, in like insanely bad performance. And then, just today, or when people hearing this yesterday, they lose 8-3. So I think it's pretty safe to stick a fork in the Guardians. And I mean, now, you look at the lead they have, we're talking about a 7-game lead now. And the Guardians are a team that is 66-73. So we're not talking about a good team that can go on a run. This is a pretty lousy team that, we're lucky to kind of meet in the middle here. So I agree with you, Carl. My 3rd, it kind of pains me to say it. Nothing against the Twins. I just like the Guardians better, but they're not. This isn't their year. I agree. Twins are at that 3rd spot.
But not enough to compete with the AL West for the 2nd spot. They're not getting a bye. There's no one chasing their heels for the division.
So here's the short answer is no. They are the 3rd spot. The only way I could see a way out is if the 3 teams cannibalize each other so much in those last 2 weeks. But I don't, and like maybe one team just gets knocked around. But if that happens, I think the Blue Jays then rise up and take a wild card spot. And I like the Blue Jays to have a better record than the Twins, but when it's all said and done. So I don't really see a way out. The only thing I see really is the Twins, and that wouldn't even affect the standing. So I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm kind of talking my way a long way around to say that the Twins are the right choice.
I hope this isn't confusing for people because it makes a ton of sense to me as I was putting this together.
I think once the graphics there, it'll make sense to people.
There's just too much competition in the AL East. Who do you have for your 4th? What are you 4th most confident in?
This is where it gets a little tougher. Remember, we're going by slots here. So, like, for instance, I would say, oh, the Orioles are a lock. But they're not a lock necessarily to beat the Rays. In fact, I don't think we have any locks left. But I think I will. For me, it's between the Orioles and. Oh, well, that's not true. We have the wild card spot. So I think I'm going to go with the Phillies then to have that first wild card spot. Excuse me. The Phillies are, in my opinion, that all the problems the Dodgers have. I think the Phillies are the last hope of anyone beating the Braves in the playoffs. Obviously, things can happen in short series, but I think the Phillies have the best chance of taking down the Braves with all the Dodgers pitching situation. The Phillies, in my opinion, are a very good team. Obviously, we saw them do it last October with the 86-win team. They're even better this year. Trey Turner's playing better. I like that pitching staff a lot, especially in the postseason. I know I'm probably being naive, but I still have confidence in Aaron Nola, and I think they lock into that first wild card spot. Now, could the Cubs catch them? They could. They're playing really good ball. But if the Cubs get red hot, then I think they pass the Brewers, and then they wouldn't be competing for the wild card anyway. So, going to go with the Phillies.
That is a great insight about the competitiveness in the NL Central and the implications that has on the wild card, because who does ever come out of that? The Phillies, I believe, are 3 games up at the time.
Yeah. Going into, when people hear this yesterday, it is a 2.5 game lead. The Phillies are tied right now with the Padres. So it's still, but between 2 and 3 games, regardless.
I had wrestled with where I wanted to put the Phillies compared to the AL East battle with the Orioles and the Rays. Maybe I'm just being sensitive to Orioles fans because they've really been loud and clear. We had talked shit about their pitching staff. They're firing back with second half statistics about, fucking Kramer and Grayson, Bradish. So I don't see the wheels falling off the Orioles. I was pretty comfortable with them, but I'd say Phillies. I like Phillies 4th. I like Phillies as the 4th overall seed in the National League, as the first wild card team and the 4th most confident spot we have in our rankings here. Take the Phillies off the board. I agree with you, Clemmer. Now, Taijuan Walker, real quietly, too bad it's not 20 years ago. He's 15-5. 15-5 after signing your first year of a big free agent contract in Philly. It'll get you stakes for a couple of years in Philly. Not for the rest of your life, just for a couple of years. Okay. Now, when you say you like him the most to beat the Braves, or the best hope after the Dodgers, is that because
before I have them ahead of the Dodgers.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is it talent? Is it because of the lineup? Is it experience?
It's all because of pitching for me. In this case, in this situation, the Phillies just have a really balanced roster. So I like that. And the Dodgers have a better offense than the Phillies. I'm not saying that. I just think the Dodgers starting pitching situation could be so. I mean, if Kershaw's hurt and Dave Roberts was insinuating that he may be, and Urias is out for the year, I don't know how they do it. I'm sorry, I just don't see Bobby Miller and Lance Lynn getting you to the promised land. I just don't see it. Now, strange things have happened. The 87 Twins, want to go way back, their third starter was a guy named Les Straker, and they won the World Series. So things can happen, but that team also had Burt Blyleven and Frank Viola. So, I mean, things can happen, but I think the Phillies are the best shot. But short series, crazy shit happens all the time. The Braves, I thought the Dodgers are going to walk to the World Series last year, and they got knocked out pretty quickly. So I've been wrong before. And I'll be wrong again.
I watched a couple soft J Jeffs win a World Series for the St. Louis Cardinals. Jeff Weaver and Jeff Suppan throwing 80-6. Yeah,
and this is cooked Jeff Weaver when he was at the end. I mean, Jeff Suppan, he was always kind of that guy, and he was always kind of a, if you believe in a clutch gene, he had it to some extent. But yeah, that team had no business winning a World Series. That Cardinals team had no business being there. That was the Mets year. And but it didn't matter, right? Like the Cardinals won. Like they won because they battled and they fought and they scrapped and they won. Sometimes talent isn't enough.
A lot of people say that about the Orioles team of destiny this year. I'll put them 5th. I'm 5th most confident in the Orioles being the number 1 seed in the American League, winning the AL East. This is coming down with them and the Rays. And the Orioles just do not give up. There's no quit. We've said this repeatedly every Monday. we're just waiting for something bad to happen and seeing major signs of flaws. It's not going to happen. It's not there. The Orioles are a phenomenal fucking team. Phenomenal. If they didn't have the Rays on their heels, this would be a much easier thing to say. But the Rays have been playing, it's just the fucking Rays.
Yeah, we're talking regular season. So the Orioles are a fantastic regular season team. We'll see how they are in the playoffs. I have some questions about. I think that's it. Ross, it's built more for 162 than it's built for the postseason. But yeah, I'm going to go with. I like your pick there of the Orioles, and I'm going to follow it up with the Rays being that wild card team, that first wild card team. I think that's kind of the way that will line up. If we're already taking the Orioles off the board, then the Rays obviously are a very good team as well, and they'll get that spot. So we're saying basically the Rays will be hosting that wild card round.
And when I said that you and I would agree on a couple of philosophies and principles in this, before I knew this is exactly what we're talking about. I have the Orioles right. I have the Rays right after the Orioles here. For that exact reason, because
it sounded like a fart noise. I had this thing here, and I rubbed it. Yeah, see, it's not a fart. So I don't want people to think I'm farting. It's gross. Carl might be farting, but I'm not.
I haven't had bad gas yet. I did have a patty melt for dinner, homemade patty melt. That's how we do it in this house. So, breaking news: trade. Who just got traded?
Who got traded?
That's the fucking trade sound from the trade deadline.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. A little callback. Look at you, Carl, huh? Way back.
If you guys watch that on YouTube, hopefully you're watching this on YouTube. Go subscribe. Do us a solid. This is a much better. This is very good in visual format. That's because I worked hard on these overlays so we could just
did a nice job,
keep things track. Thank you. Expanded playoffs means more complication, and anytime there's buys, you just get confused. 3 games, 5 games, 7 games. Hopefully, as Major League Baseball gets to 32 teams, there's a better playoff standardized format. Like, I don't like the fact that me, baseball expert, baseball guy, has to think hard about this playoff format. I would like something easier.
Yeah, I wonder what they're going to do. It's never going to happen. We know that, right? We know expansion is going to happen by the end of the decade. So how do they do it? Do you have 2 divisions of 8 division winners win, and then you have like 3 or 4 wild card teams? And I'm kind of curious to see how that all shakes out for sure. And I agree with you, Carl. I hope it is simpler because this way, the 1-game playoff, it was exciting and fun, but I understand why that kind of sucks. You play 162 and you're out in 1. But then this is, no one ever seems to understand the rules. I know they're relatively new. People are confused. People seem confused by the first round, that wild card round. They play in one location for all 3 games. That's confusing to people. It's a mess. It's a mess. I agree.
If you go to the playoffs, you should get rewarded with at least 1 home playoff game.
I agree. I think the season ticket holder deserve that.
What's the most you'd be willing to pay? Just sidebar. What's the most you'd be willing to pay for Mets playoff?
Well, I've been to 3 Mets World Series games. I'm very lucky. I had season tickets 2015. So I got to experience that. I got to see the Royals win a World Series, which is bizarre and kind of sad for me. Not a Royals fan. I mean, for me, it's World Series tickets to me are very special. I would love to see that again. I would pay quite a bit of money.
I'd say thousands of dollars.
Yeah,
$3,000, $4,000.
Because it also means that now I know they're going to be in the World Series. You tell me like next year, like you pay X, they're automatically in. Yeah, I pay $5,000 for that.
The Astros. I have the Astros next as we're filling out this confidence interval. Ooh. I have them 7th. I think now what we have to do then is think who wins. I'm more confident that the Astros win the AL West than I am that the Brewers win the NL Central. I'll have this argument with you now.
Is this the argument to even have now?
Fuck.
I'm looking at some of the wild card opportunities. I'm kind of shocked to go in this direction here. So you're that confident the Astros are going to win the West? I'm not confident at all they're going to win the West.
Their bullpen's been great in August. Their lineup's been outstanding. For as good as the Mariners have been, 864 OPS in August, which just for reference, Bryce Harper's 871 OPS this year. The Astros are right behind them at 842. The Astros have been fucking electric, and their schedule down the stretch is much easier than the Mariners.
I'm more confident that the Rangers would be the last wild card team.
I have that at the bottom of the list.
Why?
Because I don't know if the Blue Jays catch them.
That's a good point.
if the Blue Jays catch the Rangers are kind of falling apart, man.
Rangers are playing like ass right
The Astros and the Mariners have separated themselves at the top of the AL West. I had this between this and the NL Central. The Brewers have a 2.5, 3-game lead on the Cubs. And as we've talked, this isn't because the Cubs aren't good. I'm a shitty Cubs fan. It's because the Brewers are a team that don't lose in bunches, and there's only so many weeks left in the season.
I was watching the Rangers game before we came on.
Yeah.
And the announcers were like, this is a good team. This is a good team. It's like, if you're telling me that, you're not a good team right now. Like, they're like trying to sell it themselves. Like, look at this double play. This is a good team. Huh? Like trying to sell me a used car, like an 85, like Ford Tempo. It's like, no, that Tempo still sucks, bro. So you're right, Carl. The Blue Jays could catch them. I just think the Astros and Mariners, I would have that almost last on my list. I don't know who's going to come out. And I to your credit, are the Mariners that team that got hot and then, cool off and then they immediately, we have seen it a million times, right? That team that goes in this crazy run in August and then the rubber meets the road and they kind of go back to who they were before that happened. Or are they that good? They're playing very well, and I really like their pitching staff. The Astros are kind of this weird, clunky mess that never really goes too far away, but they never really go ahead.
If you look at the total season, it would be really hard to have faith in the Astros. If you look at their August, though, I believe 17-11, the starting pitching ERA, little troubling, but bounced back in August. Horrible July for the Astros. Their reliever ERA is great, though.
We're not convinced that the Brewers. How many more times do the Brewers play the Cubs before the season's over? Do you know that? Are they done? They're done playing each other, aren't they? I don't know if the Cubs can catch the Brewers. I mean, they can obviously, but I mean, like in the likelihood, what's more likely, the Cubs catch the Brewers or the Astros pass the Mariners?
When you ask me like that, I have to be objective. It's more likely that the
Brewers hold on, right?
It's more likely the Brewers hold on.
I think you're right. I think so, Carl. I think we have to go Brewers here. They don't like you said, they're pitching step starting rotation, especially now that Woodruff's back, they just don't lose in bunches. And that's what you have to do to blow this lead. Like, you think back to like the 95 Angels, right? Like, obviously that lead was bigger, or like the 11 Red Sox. But what happened to those two teams? The pitching went to shit. That's why they lost. Now, we're talking about teams that blew like 10-game, 9-game leads in a month. But that was the key. The Brewers' pitching's on the upswing. Between Burns, Freddie Peralta, and now Woodruff, I don't see them doing any worse than losing 2 out of 5. And, I don't see them losing 4 out of 5 is what I'm trying to say. I don't think. So I would go Brewers. And if that's the case, then the next pick for me would be the Cubs lock in that second wild card spot.
Yeah, that's the same thing we were doing with the Orioles and the Rays. Yeah. There's part of me that wants to hold out the hope. Cubs get hot, Brewers fall apart. And
we're not. This is an exercise, a thought exercise that we're not at the beginning of. We're near the middle of this, and this is when you have to make some tough decisions. I would not. I still think the Cubs have a chance at doing this. The Cubs have a much better offense. I have some question marks about their pitching staff, which I loved a lot more 2 months ago than I do right now. But could the Cubs go on a tear and win 7 of 11 and catch the Brewers? Sure. I just think that's not as likely as the other option in the West.
And to back that up, the Cubs played unbelievable baseball since the second half, and they're still out.
Right.
The Brewers have played a little bit better.
The Brewers have matched them.
So then the question is, can the Cubs get to another gear while the Brewers drop down 3 more gears?
I just don't think there's enough time. There's only, 27 days left, which means like 24 games?
We got to stop for a second. What did you say to Justin Steele? Because since he left that office, pal, he's just taken over the Cy Young odds. What the fuck did you tell him on Pick Central?
Honestly, man, that guy, he doesn't need me to say anything. He was great. He's been great all year. That's an interesting conversation. Who should be the Cy Young, Blake Snell or Justin Steele? Now, Meek Phil had a great tweet about how, look at Blake Snell. The guy has 12 games where he hasn't gone, I think, over 5 innings. And it's like, look at Steele. Steele is pitching deeper into games. It shouldn't be, when it's close, I think it is a difference maker. Steele's games are more important. If I had to vote right now, I would vote for Steele. Now there's still a few weeks left, but for me, Justin Steele should be the Cy Young Award winner. I don't know if he will be though, but maybe imagine if they the Cubs clinch the last 3 or 4 days of the year, clinch that wild card, Steele's the guy in the mound. Let's go.
It's the moment. He stepped up against the Brewers last week when we did this show. We had talked, as his central cook. I said they got 2 games left at home. Justin Steele goes out, deals that one, kind of gives him that momentum, that bump. Justin has been compared to John Lester in recent post-game comments from David Ross, which he says, listen, this is unfair. Lester's accomplished a lot. He's such a big game pitcher. Justin hasn't had those moments. But the way Lester craves the ball and wants to put the team on his back, it reminds me of Justin Steele. Now, that could be an easier comparison, too, because they have similar stuff, 92, sink, slide, cut, all that stuff.
Both guys, Justin Steele, by the way, super down-to-earth guy, super cool guy. He did pick Central, but even off camera, just not one of those guys that has a big ego, very down to earth. Just was basically one of the guys, and I don't know. I like the guy pitching anyway, but he won me over even more so after he came on. He was awesome. Easy
guy to cheer for. Small town Mississippi.
Absolutely.
We did predict 2 weeks ago that he would be the Cy Young winner. And then obviously the 8-inning, 12 strikeout, 2-hit game.
Shoving.
So Cubs here at 8 in the confidence interval rankings, whatever the fuck that means. But in the 5th seed, where we're saying that they would square off against the Phillies, the winner of that 3-game series would then play the Braves.
Right. Boy, that's a fucking gauntlet for the Cubs, huh? Because you basically faced, in my opinion, the 2 best heading into the playoffs. The playoffs, once the playoffs start, in my opinion, will be the 2 best teams in the National League. That is a rough road.
And we've completely glossed over Trey Turner this episode. We should mention, since the standing ovation, I believe his OPS is 17,000.
I mean, he's back to being Trey Turner, which is what happens when great players, get comfortable and get more situated and figure it out. And he never shied away from the media, never shied away from the criticism, never shied away from the fans, held his head up high, went to work every day, did the best he could, and now he's succeeding, and people love him, which is awesome. I mean, good for him.
We have 4 spots left. The 2 seed in the AL, the 2nd wild card for the American League, the 3rd wild card for the American League, and the 6th wild card for the National League.
I think we need to make a decision on Seattle-Houston then here. I really like Seattle's pitching staff, but then I see what Jose Altuve is doing right now. He has 3 homers and 4 at-bats. They're winning 14-1 against the Rangers.
It's that time of year, pal.
I mean,
the rocket ship is taking off from Houston. It is the Astros in the American League West over the Mariners. I like the Mariners so much. I like the fans. I like the story. I think they're loony bins. I think the Seahawks falling apart has invigorated the Mariner fan base. You saw last year in the playoff game at home, they blew it against the Astros. Those people are fucking crazy and hungry. I sympathize with them. I want to see them happy, even though they're a little weird. Mariners fans are a little weird.
I love the Mariners fans, and I root for Seattle like crazy. Never been to a World Series, been around since 77. They've had a bizarre amount of all-time iconic players go through there, and they have nothing to show for it. We're talking Griffey, Big Unit, A-Rod, Edgar Martinez. They had David Ortiz, don't forget, before they sent him to the Twins in a trade for Dave Hollins. And then you mix in Ichiro, Felix Hernandez. It's so many talented guys were there. They don't even have an AL pennant. I root for them like crazy. I would love, and I'm rooting for them in the AL West personally. But when we're making decisions here with less than 4 weeks left. I'll say this, and it shouldn't matter in the scheme of things, but it does because we're getting in crunch time. The Mariners just lost 7-6 to the Reds. They blew a big lead, and and the Astros are putting on a clinic right now against a good, as the announcers will say, this is a good team, a good Rangers team. So I don't know. I guess I'm going to side with you, Carl, here. Let's bite the bullet and let's go with Houston here.
Again, this is our 9th most. I'm not.
I have no confidence in this at all.
I have zero confidence.
I have zero. Because I could easily see a world with that great Mariners pitching. And I just saw the Mariners play in Citi Field. I went to the game on Sunday, and George Kirby got knocked around a little bit. But I'll give him credit for this though. Never lost his composure, and he never stopped doing what he does, which is throw strikes. Right? He never walks anyone, and he kept throwing the ball to the plate. Now the Mets got lucky, hit some, and then they got hit harder, and then he was out there for a long time, got tired, yada yada yada. But he kept being himself. He didn't try to overdo it, which I think is a good sign for the playoffs. Like, the kid's got it. I don't know, man. I'll say this. 3 years from now, this might be a whole different conversation. I think the Mariners' future is far brighter than the Astros. That Astros pitching staff is deteriorating right in front of our eyes. And they got Verlander on the hook for 2 more years, right? So, but for this year, right now, this very moment on September 5th at 10:21 p.m., I have to say Houston. I will change my mind 3 years from now.
Yeah, I have no idea either. It's a guess. I'm looking at schedules. I know how hot the Mariners have been. If you compare the side by sides, the Astros haven't been that far behind them. And ultimately, the cool off period for the Mariners before the playoffs, I think, will happen enough for the Astros to take advantage of it, which puts us at 10, which takes us into 11. Which then I'd say, it's basically the American League wild card 6 spot versus the National League, the last wild card teams in. We have 2 spots left in the playoffs. There's so many teams.
We put the Mariners in that other spot, obviously, right?
Yeah, the Mariners would be 10 right after that.
Okay.
So then the last 2 spots, we're looking at the National League wild card, which is a toss-up between the Diamondbacks, the Giants, the Marlins, the Reds.
That's it.
Well, I mean, I did say at the top I don't want to include the Padres unless they win 8 in a row. So I want this to be able to be clear.
We have 4 realistic teams right now.
And then the American League is the Blue Jays, the Rangers, and this little outside, little heartbeat from the Red Sox. Just enough to be included in the graphic.
So let's tackle the American League then, because I think that's easier. There's really 2 teams. Like we're doing a thought exercise here. We're not saying the Red Sox have 0 chance. There's a pulse. They're that 89-year-old grandparent, and that's they're just about ready for hospice care. But we're keeping our fingers crossed. They wake up tomorrow. That's where we are at the Red Sox. But with it being a 2-horse race opposed to a 4-horse race, I think it's easier to make a guess here. We got the Rangers and Blue Jays. And you know what? I've been saying it all year. Hubs, I've been saying it for 2 years since I started being at Barstool. Keep saying the Blue Jays are going to win. Hubs keeps telling me I'm an idiot. Hubs keeps being right. I'm going to go with the Blue Jays here. What do you think, Carl? The Rangers, they look dead to me. This is rough. And these could change quickly, but ugh.
I did have the Rangers just because they've been so good all season, and I don't want to turn my back on them now. I've been doing that for a couple weeks in the power rankings. I'm not ready to turn my back on them. And I hate Blue Jay baseball. Just hate it. Sloppy, no fundamental. They should always be way better. Pitchers are inconsistent. I just don't understand their program. When they go to spring training, I don't think they're doing spring training. I think those guys are just sitting around playing video games and doing home run derbies and shit. There's just something about the Blue Jays that's just so utterly sloppy that when the games matter most, I don't really trust them. But the Rangers have been so fucking bad. So right now, if I have to make a decision, I'll take the slop from Canada over the slop in Texas right now. I will agree with you for the purposes of this. Right now, although I have faith that as I look ahead, I think the Blue Jays just are made to fall apart. That's who they are. It's in their identity as a baseball team is to just not be good when it matters the most.
Rangers have the better manager. Is that enough to carry you?
By far the better manager.
I agree. So I want to talk a little bit about Alek Manoah. So today it was announced basically Alek Manoah's season's over. He's instructional league. I was looking at his stats last year, and I was thinking, fuck, if he could have done what he did last year, this year, we're not talking about the third playoff or whatever, this wild card slot barely sneaking in. We're talking about, challenging the Orioles, or at least the Rays to that first wild card spot. Because they're 10.5 back from the Orioles, about 7 back of the Rays. Alek Manoah, man, he literally cost his team a season. And it's as simple as that. You can drill it down that easily, and that this guy from turning Cinderella, stagecoach into a pumpkin overnight, and we don't know what happened. Now Hubbs thinks it's because he's fat, and Hubbs thinks it's because he's a big fat guy who couldn't handle the pitch clock. Maybe he just lost confidence, didn't have the mental strength to be able to kind of overcome that, which I'm surprised doesn't happen to more guys. That's the case, because it's got to be tough having 30,000 people boo you and stuff. You're a young person. Maybe you never really experienced failure. Maybe it's a combination of the two. Maybe he has arm trouble we're not aware of. I don't know what the fuck's going on with him. Obviously, Blue Jays don't either. They keep bringing him up, sending him down, bringing him up. It's like an elevator. I don't know what they do with him, but they got to fix him, because he literally, the 2023 obituary for the Blue Jays, if they do not make the playoffs, is one man. Just right, Alek Manoah.
Yeah, 2 things come to mind. A, death by 1,000 cuts. B, big trees fall hard. He's a big ego guy, tons of confidence, first-round pick, had established himself in the big leagues, was a bona fide frontline starter. Now, when I say death by 1,000 cuts, all these little changes, can't hold the ball, can't pace around the mound, pitch calm, a lot of things that go into being an ace and being in control of the game that you and I have talked about before. Of like being a starting pitcher, you get to that position in sports because you love the theater and the stage of performing and being on the mound. And that goes in tandem with the ego aspect of it's your game. And for a lot of pitchers, they gravitate towards the emotional attachment when you're younger. These guys could have been playing shortstop, first base, quarterback, basketball. And so a lot of younger athletes that gravitate towards being on the mound are guys that just love the theater and it's my game and it's my ball. And Manoah stands at the top of that to me. And that profile is the type of guy that when you face that adversity and you can't get over the hump, he's probably tried 1,000 different things. He's probably tried harder this year than all seasons combined, multiplied by 1,000. It's probably been so tough for him. And what adjustments do you make? If there's a mechanical flaw because you're not comfortable, but then you're not comfortable because you can't pick over and you're missing spots, it all just adds up into one cocktail, and it sucks for Manoah. It sucks for the Blue Jays. If you're in the front office, you got to be so fucking mad, so furious, because finding frontline starting pitching that's homegrown, especially bad boy attitude stuff, you love having that. You love having that. So it's just a sad analysis.
Cost-controlled aces don't grow on trees. And and by the way, if you're upset at all with how we're ranking your team, I'll give you this to give you some peace of mind. I thought Alek Manoah was going to be the best pitcher in the division this year. So, and Garrett Cole's the division. So I'm wrong a lot. I'm a big idiot. So if you're upset about where we ranked it, maybe we did you a service there with that. But yeah, I think we'll go with the Blue Jays here, right, Carl? And then but like I said, I have no confidence the Rangers could easily pass the Blue Jays. I would not be surprised in the least.
We're at the bottom of the list here. We're just filling out a playoff bracket that may or may not be probable or may not happen.
Yes.
And we're not picking who wins these matchups yet. We'll do that later. We said that off the top of the show. So if you're expecting us to go through and put together NLDS.
No, we're just setting the stage here. And this is what the fun of the regular season is. What in my opinion, the last 4 weeks are about. We have plenty of time to talk playoffs, and believe me, we will. But this is just kind of the regular season setting it all up. So this is the 4 teams in the National League. And I'll be damned if I know who's going to win this fucking thing. Giants, Marlins, Reds, and Diamondbacks. Who do you help with this? I'm astray.
Yeah, opening comment is the closer we get to the bottom of the list, the more fun this gets. So it is more painful to be a Blue Jays Rangers fan right now, but it's also more fun. And so for this one too, the Reds, the Diamondbacks, Giants, Marlins, this is chaos to get to the end. They're all very close. I think within a game and a half of each other. The Padres 6.5 out. We're not considering them. Between the Reds, Marlins, Diamondbacks, and Giants, I'm compelled to compare schedules. The Giants got slaughtered the last week or so. But the next 2 weeks, if they come out of it, if they can get hot the next 2 weeks, they've got a cupcake schedule. The Marlins had a gauntlet. The Marlins run into nothing but playoff teams. The Diamondbacks have 2 East Coast road trips left this season.
They got my Mets next week.
Yes, 2 6-gamers where they're going out to play the Mets, and then they play a Central team. Then they have to go back and play the Yankees. And I think that's because the Diamondbacks host a lot to start the season. I think MLB floods them with a little bit more home games in April and May, which would make sense. The Reds have the easiest schedule to close the season. They've been playing well lately. They did split that series with the Cubs. Now they're going to take a series from the Mariners. So I would put the Reds here. I have more confidence in the Reds than the other teams. I like the Marlins pitching. They've just been stiff lately. Their schedule's fucking brutal down the stretch. I like the Giants more than the Diamondbacks, but I like the Reds more than the Giants.
Okay, I'm push back with you a little on the Reds. So the Reds do
Shocker.
The Reds have the easiest schedule moving forward, but they've also the easiest schedule up to this point. So I just don't have any confidence, and especially with is Matt McClain still out? I know he was at one point. He was hurt. He is still out, so I thought. So that's troubling for me. I don't see the Reds pulling this off. The Diamondbacks. The Diamondbacks are losing right now, and like it's the third inning of one random game, but they're losing to the Rockies too. It's like these are games they absolutely have to win. Like you have to beat the Rockies. If you're in a 4-game race, you got to beat the Rockies. They have to take 3 out of 4 against the Mets next week. I know it's in Citi Field, but you got to win these games against these bad teams. Got the Marlins. Marlins just beat the Dodgers today. Great, but like you said, the Marlins have a rough schedule, and they're not playing very good baseball up to this point. They did make a couple moves as far as trades at the deadline, things like that, which we liked. It did improve their team, but they didn't get that one big piece. They got a couple little. Okay. I use this with the Giants, who I have the most confidence in, which is, I'm using the word most very lightly. I think that tough schedule they just played, while they did play horrible in it, I get it. But I think they have the deepest team, and I have the most confidence in their pitching staff. Having said that, you have guys in that pitching staff that aren't pitching very well right now. I don't like any of these teams. Whoever wins. Whoever gets by these 4 teams is the weakest team in the playoffs this year. I would say even weaker than the Twins,
who we opened the show with.
Right. But the Twins, we both agree, are not a good playoff team. But at least they have Sonny Gray and Pablo Lopez, and you can make, all right, I can see that you can at least have some competitive games. I think whoever wins of these 4 teams is not a good baseball team. And when I say not good, I mean like not even good, period, much less a playoff team. They're a horrible playoff team.
But then I watched the Reds take the series from the Mariners. They battle back. They win the first game. They come back game 2. There's a little bit more secret sauce in Cincinnati than there is in San Francisco. Just a little bit more. But, as I have in my notes, the Giants schedule, the next 2 weeks will dictate, shouldn't even say that, the next 8 games for them.
Why? Who's that? Who do they have the next 8?
More challenging. They've got like Houston. They've got the Dodgers mixed in there. If you want to go ahead and pull that up. They've got a little bit of a competitive chunk here in the next like week and a half. And if they get out of that, then it's fucking Cupcake City for a little bit. I think they got the Rockies. Throw Oakland in there. Not a ton of travel.
So the Reds just called up a rookie today who's one of their top pitching prospects. I'm getting his first name. Connor Phillips.
Yes.
He got knocked around. 5 runs in 4 2/3. They won that game, but it wasn't because of him. Andrew Abbott's been good this year. Once you get past him, it gets really weird. Like they don't have any pitchers. Like Ashcraft, Williamson, Green, and Lively are all on the IL in various stages. Wadolo is out for the year. Every Reds fan was telling me, "Oh, he's coming back. He's coming back. He's not coming. He's hurt." Okay, so now we have Connor Overton, who's on the IL. Got a guy named Levi Stout, who's on in the minor leagues, is 9.58 ERA. I don't know if he's going to start these games. Like, they don't have any starters. They've run out of starting pitching.
Giants, it is.
I think it has to be.
If we're sitting here talking starting pitching, then I'll take the better starting pitching.
Like, it's not even better. It's just like existent starting pitching. Like, I mean, there's only so many bullpen games you can throw. They get Derek Law started a couple of games. I just don't know like who's gonna. No, I think some of these guys are gonna come back. Like, I think like Williamson, I think is gonna come back. Green went back in the IL. I just don't know who's coming back. And I there's not enough time. They're gonna run out of time. So you can't have Andrew Abbott pitch every day. So I don't know what you do. And if Connor Phillips went out there and threw and was like, oh shit, like this is real, like then it's like, all right, maybe that's different. But like, I don't know. I can't in good faith say a team with one starting pitcher right now is good enough to make the playoffs.
September 6th.
Yeah.
It's September 6th. This isn't set in stone. At this point in recording, you're such a dick about the Reds too. Like, you can't even be nice.
Fair. I'm just being honest about it. No one wants to hear that. Then again, to Reds fans, I know Reds fans are probably very upset. They've been upset with me all year. I never thought they would be, 72 and 68 or 73 and 68. I never thought that was going to happen. So maybe they'll keep proving me wrong.
We've got the Giants 12th. I'll repeat this. Braves 1 seed National League. Dodgers 2 seed. Twins 3 seed American League. Phillies 4 seed. We've got the Orioles the 1 seed in the American League. We've got the Rays as the first wild card team. The Brewers is the NL Central champs. The Cubs is the second National League wild card team. The Astros is AL West champions. The Mariners, in whatever fucking wild card spot that is. What is that? The second American League wild card spot?
Because the third is the Blue Jays.
Third is Blue Jays, and then third National League Giants. This would be a playoff bracket. I would, and this isn't how the standings are right now. Obviously, we could fucking go through that. It'd be super easy. This is how we think it's going to end up based on September 6th. If it did end up like this, they're good playoffs.
What are the matchups of the first round?
We've got Twins versus Blue Jays.
Oof. Okay.
We have Rays versus Mariners.
Oh, that's a good one.
Then we have Brewers versus Giants.
Rose.
Awful.
That's the one that's going to be that's the one that's like 12:30 the first day. And what's the other National League matchup?
Cubs at Phillies.
Oh, there you go. That's your money maker right there. So Cubs, Phillies, and then that Rays series, Rays Mariners, would be the ones you get excited about. That Cubs Phillies one. That has a good chance of happening. That's going to be fun. I think the Phillies are going to beat up the Cubs a little bit, but that's a fun one.
I like the Cubs lineup that would go into Philadelphia. Tough, gritty, good hard-nosed, clean, fundamental baseball, and they play good matchups. They're always rotating that lineup in and out.
Got Justin Steele starting game 1.
Kyle Hendricks going game 2. Not too shabby there, huh?
It's kind of shabby for a playoff team. It's pretty shabby.
Go fuck yourself. Kyle Hendricks throwing fastball changeup combinations all day, especially if they get a little 305 start. Come on. Give me a 305.
You want him starting game 4 or something.
Miles Teller's throwing out the first pitch. Fanfare's crazy. Blood's pumping. Everybody's all jacked up. First pitch of the game, 74-mile-an-hour cut change.
Well, it wouldn't be there, though. It'd be that's right, because it'd be in Philly, is what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
All those games would be in Philly, though. Like, that sucks. You wouldn't get any game in Wrigley.
Yeah, we get the NLDS in Wrigley after they beat the Phillies.
Yeah. But, that's why I don't like that setup. Because wouldn't that be fun to go from, Citizens Bank to Wrigley? That's, those two, great baseball cities, let's go. And unfortunately, because the way the rules are, it would only be in one of those cities. Yeah, that kind of stuff.
No question. It should be 5 games in the first round. 5 games in the DS. They got to tweak the schedule. The wheels of change in Major League Baseball turn so slow.
I was kind of hoping they would build in doubleheaders. If you had like 3 built-in doubleheaders for each team, you could have a 5-game series in that first round, no problem.
I've been begging for less games.
Can I get mad about something too? Has nothing to do with this. Why does the last game of the year ends at 3:00 on NFL Sunday? What are we doing? Don't do that. All eyes should be on baseball. Have it end have the last games be on a Tuesday. When I was a kid growing up, I think the games were ended on Wednesday, which was great. No one loves baseball more than us. But I'm going to be flipping between the football and baseball a lot, and that shouldn't be the case. All eyes should be on baseball the last day of the year. I don't know why they do this, why they insist on ending on a Sunday. It's so stupid.
They could have already sold the advertising packages. I don't know how valuable the last day of the season is to Major League Baseball before the season starts.
Well, it's right. I don't think they sold any packages. It's all like the local cable channel. Like, I don't think it's not national. It's not national packages you worry about selling. They're so focused on getting the playoffs started on a Tuesday. They want to avoid Monday Night Football, which I understand. But like, just move shit around. I don't know. That pisses me. Because you're still going up against Thursday Night Football that same week. You can't hide.
You're a Jets fan?
Hell yeah.
You're tortured.
Not for long, baby. Aaron Rodgers. Garrett Wilson, hello.
Steve Cohen put you in that position to be more excited for the Jets this time of year.
How?
No, not Steve. Who's the GM?
Billy Epler?
Last thing. You guys keep saying David Stearns is a slam dunk. He's not that. You should be getting their player development guy. I don't know if you need the GM.
I want David Stearns, and I want Craig Counsell, and I want them here October 2nd.
And maybe next year you guys will be a part of this exercise.
I'm going to rent a fucking car. I'm going to go to LaGuardia. I'm going to pick them up. I'm going to drive them to Flushing. I'll sing them songs on the way over there. I'll make my fart noise. I'll get compact. I'll do what the fuck they want. I'll fucking blow Craig Counsell if that's what it comes to.
Let's go.
I'm not having another one of these fucking seasons where I'm like watching, zombie Carlos Carrasco, break his pinkies out for the year, and you're just like shrugging your shoulders, looking at Tyler McGill getting his shit kicked in. You're praying David Peterson goes 4 2/3 inning. Like, no more of this. We'll blow for wins.
Come and get it, Craig. You've seen Clemmer. If you're watching this on YouTube, Clemmer's pantomiming a wonderful blowjob. Honestly, experienced. What are you, tickling balls? This is Barstool Baseball. This is the playoff projection exercise.
I'm coming for you, David Stearns. Coming.
We're gonna be back on Friday. We're gonna do another edition of Raw Star Wars. I think I changed the name of that from roster. Someone in the comment was like, if you're going to go Star Wars themes, just call it Raw Star Wars.
Yeah. But now people are going to be arguing about like roster music, like Bob Marley against somebody else.
I used the font. I downloaded the Jedi font. Yeah. So I wanted people to know that there's some themes. So the transitions on Friday will be like lightsaber sounds, and I'm going to maybe Photoshop a fucking light. That was a good sound effect, bro.
Okay.
Save that for when I call upon it in the Star Wars in the Raw Star Wars. Subscribe on YouTube, please. Thank you very much. This is Barstool Baseball. We'll be back on Friday. Until next time.